Today we're here talking about diamond moments, and that's how I broach the conversation of conflict resolution. And I want you to imagine the idea that there's a diamond in place, because we're going to talk a lot about this diamond. It's even called diamond moments is what I want you to think about. And that diamond moment would be when somebody doesn't see what you see. Now, that might have been today as you woke up and said hi to your wife or husband, or you walked in and your kid's not eating what you made them and they didn't see what you saw. Or maybe you're at work and obviously something's happening that people are not seeing what you see, and there's a conflict. Now, I asked you before in the intro, is that bad or good? Now I want you to think about that. Is conflict a good thing or a bad thing? Now I know some people that I meet, some people cause conflict. So they use conflict to get things done. They like to upset people. They like to move things. And so that's not what I'm talking about when I say good or bad. That kind of way of leadership is not healthy. So I'll say that right away. But humans constantly are going to have conflict. And what that means is you have a different perspective than I do. And so I don't believe that kind of conflict is good or bad. Now you might say, oh no, I avoid conflict. If someone comes up to me and says, the sky is a different color than I think, I'm going to just run away. I'm just going to go hide and I'm not going to deal with it. And there are people who do that, and they do that regularly. And then there's other people who would like to argue about it. And I just tell you, there's a way to come at conflict and understand how to walk away together. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to fully agree on the color of the sky, and it doesn't mean you have to change your opinion. But I can tell you there's a way that when you're done, conflict resolution can respect both parties. Now, back to the diamond. Imagine we have a diamond, and you have a diamond where you have one group walks up, and they're looking at it from one direction, and you have another group looking at it from another direction. And then you ask them questions about what they see. I promise you they are not going to see the same thing. The lights that are coming through are going to look different. The angles are going to look different. You're going to find that they even see shadows that nobody else even think are there. And matter of fact, the other group might think you're crazy because you're seeing something that you must just be making up stuff because they can't see what you see. Well, I'm here to say maybe they're not crazy. Maybe they're here to make you smarter. You see, if I can't see what you see, maybe if we sat down and talked, we could see both sides of that diamond. And maybe we even have a third and a fourth join us, and maybe they even show us some things that we haven't seen ourselves. We call those diamond moments where I come from in my little world. And so I like coming to the idea that there's these moments in time where you get to stop and learn. Now, depending on how you handle conflict, you don't get to learn anything. There are a lot of people who just find themselves angry because someone didn't agree with them, or they find themselves insecure or those things. So we're going to kind of hit on some of that and what needs to happen as you come up to conflict. Now, I believe there's a pre-conflict conversation that has to happen. That pre-conflict conversation has to be, do you know who you are? Now you might say, wait a minute. If I'm dealing with conflict, I'm talking about that person. They came in here, they ruined my day. Well, before that person ever walked into your day, do you know who you are? Because if you don't know who you are, conflict can go sour. And here's the reason why, is that let's say I don't know where I stand on a particular situation, or I don't know something, and I walk in a room and somebody over there says, well, this is what I think. Well, I either have to agree with them because I don't know what I'm talking about, or admit I don't know what I'm talking about. So in my world, I actually do just admit I don't know what I'm talking about. Now that might seem like, man, how do you do that? People expect you to know things. They don't expect you to know everything. And they'd rather have your perspective. I believe that's what they need. So it's better for you to take a moment and go figure out yourself. Because the worst thing you can do is just agree with the other person, because you're going to find in the middle of agreeing with them that you're going to start having conflict with yourself. You got to get to a place where you know what you're looking at and you know what you're seeing. See, another thing that people do in that situation is because they don't want to agree with the other person, they'll just make up what they heard, or they'll say, well, this is what the last person told me. So they'll stand on things that are not true. Welcome to today in what we call social media. A lot of times people just hear something or read something and they say, well, this is what's happening. I read it, or I saw it, or whatever. And then they run out there and they stand on it, and the other person on the other side of that diamond disagrees. Well, the more they come in and they show you what they see, you're going to find yourself wanting to get defensive. You're not getting defensive because they're right or wrong. You're getting defensive because you learn, and you quickly learn, you don't know what you're talking about. And so what you want to do is lash out, or you want to defend yourself. But when you take a moment to learn who you are, it's not defensive anymore. I don't have to defend myself. Put it this way. If I was going and I'm driving down the road and I saw somebody in an accident and a purple car hit a blue car and then the purple car drove off. Yeah, it's sad. Everyone's okay. Don't worry about it. And the police come up to me and say, what'd you see? And I say, well, I saw a purple car hit a blue car and the purple car drove off. And somebody else comes and says, well, I don't think that's what happened. There was not a purple car. The guy just ran into the pole. And I'll be all, what are you talking about? Were you here? Did you see it? Well, I heard from somebody else. This is what happened. I'm all, well, I was here. I saw it. And I'm not going to get mad at somebody. I'm just going to say, I know for a matter of fact what I saw, what I touched, what I heard. I was there. And that doesn't mean I'm always correct. Maybe I missaw something or misread something. However, at the same time, when I'm confident in who I am, things change. So in a minute, we're going to start talking about what to do with conflict, but I want to stay here and talk about you and how do you deal with who you are. First of all, you got to slow down a little bit and start doing some self-introspection. You got to you can't be running so fast that you're running from urgent thing to urgent thing. We call it tyranny of the urgent. And this thing pops up, so you're running around and you're only taking a moment to deal with conflict, because at that point, you're not ready for conflict and you will just be angry. You'll be mad that something got in your way of finishing what you thought you needed to do. So you want to be able to walk and pace yourself with time management, with some priorities in order, and those are things we'll talk about soon as well. But how do you slow down and how do you handle that? So I want you to think about your life just today. Did you have time for you? Now, I'm not going to answer that for you, but I want you to think about it. Did you take time for you? So if you listen in the morning, maybe today just started. Take some time for you. Take some time to stop and pause. If you're a prayer person, pray. If you're someone who meditates, meditate. If you just like walking and staring at nature, stare at nature. But take a moment to get yourself where you're not running into the room out of breath. Because if you're doing that and you're running into work, barely making it, and all of a sudden your boss throws up something that seems like conflict, you're going to have a very hard time handling that because you haven't got your feet under you. Now, if they throw up something that you don't know, it's okay to say, I need a minute to think about that. That will change your world. I can imagine in marriages what would happen if people just took a moment before they spoke. Now, I have the honor of doing a lot of marriages over the years. If you've ever been to Vegas, I actually was the minister for Caesar's Palace. If you can imagine this little short guy with Cleopatra and Caesar standing behind me doing your wedding, that was me. And so I did a lot of weddings, and over the years I also did a lot of marriage conflict resolution, a lot of just marriage help and counseling. Now, with that said, one of the things that I helped work on is how do they talk to each other? How do they communicate with one another? And then how do they slow down and make sure they're saying the right thing at the right time? And so when we talk about conflict, the first thing you have to do that has to be in place is you got to get your center. You got to know who you are. And this comes with any conversation, is know who you are. Again, think of that diamond. If I'm going to approach a conversation with you and I say, wait a minute, this is what I think, what do you think about that? And you make up something or tell me something that isn't what you really see, well, if I've taken the time to really look at it, then my argument's going to win, and it maybe makes you mad or whatever, but it's not really a discourse at that point. It's something that you're coming with things that are mistruth, or I am. Now, right now in today's world, we have a lot of people who haven't taken time on either side. They're just making up stuff all the time, and whoever has the best argument seems to win, or whoever's the meanest or baddest. But good conversation comes when people slow down, understand who they are, what their foundation is, and really look at what is happening. So it doesn't matter if it's at work, in your marriage, or wherever it's at. take a moment, think of who you are, what is important to you, think of what matters, and then get ready to walk in to your day. Kristopher, Dahir, so good to be with you.